Good afternoon. I'm Tim Lynch. I'm your host today of MLGBA Legal Lines. Legal Lines is brought to you by the MLGBA, which is the Massachusetts Lesbian and Gay Bar Association. My guest here today is Ryan Brown. Ryan Brown is a field coordinator for Mass Equality. He has appeared before on our show and is here to give us an update. Ryan, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Pretty good. Why don't you tell our guests what exactly Mass Equality is again?
Of course. So Mass Equality is the organization based here in Boston to promote full equality for the LGBT community, as well as advancing marriage equality throughout New England.
So the purpose of Mass Equality has changed over time, has it
has.
not?
We originally came together as a coalition of organizations to protect the Goodridge decision, which was the legal case that provided for same-sex marriage here in Massachusetts. And our initial mission during that time was to protect marriage equality here in Massachusetts, which we pretty much accomplished back in 2007 with the defeat of that final referendum that could have banned same-sex marriage here in Massachusetts. So once we had accomplished that mission, we were able to expand that mission into something more broad, which is what we have today, to protect full equality for LGBT people.
And going to other New England states basically protects marriage here at home as well, does
Absolutely,
it not? Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's kind of spread the wealth kind of thing.
Absolutely.
So tell us a little bit about how Mass Equality is set up.
Of course. So we are about 10 staff people, and we have several different functions. I work in what we call the field department. So me and the other field organizers are the folks who sort of go out into the community, work with volunteers to take to take political action, to support the different pieces of legislation or our different agenda items, whether here or throughout New England. So that really is sort of the field work. We also have a development department, which is responsible for raising the money that can fund all of the different work that we do. And then we have an executive and administrative department that makes sure that we are raising the money that we need to and doing the work that needs to be done.
That's great. That seems like an awful lot of things for just 10 people.
It is. I mean, back in 2007, when we were working on marriage equality here in Massachusetts, we had a staff of upwards of 30 or 40 people.
Wow. So
we have downsized considerably over the past few years.
And a number of your executives went over to help out in California.
Absolutely. Mark Solomon, who is our former executive director, is now leading the marriage equality work out in California. And then also Amy Mello, who is our former field director, is out directing the field efforts in the state as well.
And currently they're waiting for a ballot initiative to revisit that again.
In 2012. We were defeated last year at the ballot. Unfortunately, after the courts had provided for same-sex marriage, there was a question on the ballot to actually repeal that new law, and they were successful in repealing that. So it banned same-sex marriage for the time being. But in 2012, we'll be able to put another question on the ballot.
They have an odd setup, from what I understand, out there in California. You have people who, there was a period of time when you could get married.
You could, exactly. So the court decision came down, I believe it was about April or May of that year, and essentially they could get married a short period after that decision came down. They were able to get married up until it was repealed at the ballot in November.
And those people that married in that window are still legally married.
Absolutely. I mean, there was a lot of talk around, after marriage equality was repealed in California, there was a lot of talk about what would happen to the same-sex couples who had gotten married during that window. And there was actually a lawsuit that was brought up that could have essentially undone those marriages. Thankfully, that didn't happen. So there is there is a small group of individuals that were able to marry during that window.
So, and as I understand it, there's at least a federal lawsuit on equal protection grounds now, because you have so many different, now in California you have so many different classes of people. You do. Heterosexual marriages. You have same-sex marriages that were allowed during a certain time period, And now you can no longer have same-sex marriages.
Exactly. So it's really like 3 different classes. It's just a mess
It's a
in
total
California
mess.
right now.
So let's hope that all that works out. And
Absolutely.
that's repealed out there. So now we're back here in New England. We have marriage here in Massachusetts.
We do, as well as Vermont and New Hampshire, Connecticut. And Maine actually passed a law to provide marriage equality. So the legislature of Maine has passed a law providing full marriage equality to same-sex couples, which in most instances in Maine, when a law is passed like that, 90 days after that law is passed, it goes into effect. However, it's very easy in the state of Maine to perform what's called a people's veto, where essentially after a law is passed, it's very easy for a small group of individuals to gather signatures to place a question on the ballot to veto that newly passed law. And that's exactly what's happened in Maine right now. That law was passed in May. The people, a few opponents of marriage equality, got together to put a question on the ballot for this fall, for November, so that now on November 3rd, a question on the ballot where the people will go out and vote whether or not to repeal that new marriage equality law.
So the law hasn't taken effect yet?
It has not taken effect yet. It will now wait until after that referendum process is complete.
Wow.